Welcome back to Channel 6 News at 6. The Chernobyl Diaries was just released in theaters and was a hit at the box office. Today we have brought in some environmental experts to talk about the real effects of the Chernobyl disaster. First we have Catherine Lawton. Catherine, what will you be talking about?
Thank you. I'm going to discuss how living organisms were affected by the disaster and how food chains were affected.
Interesting. Go on.
The radiation that Chernobyl caused significantly affected the food web. There was an increase in death of plants, soil, invertebrates, and mammals. Less plants and animals caused the food chain to deplete. Cesium-137, which is a huge cause of cancer and diseases, was absorbed through the food chain. Radioactive particles in water were also concentrated in the aquatic food chain. Mostly everything in the 30 kilometers of the release point consumed acute radiation syndrome, which is a serious illness that occurs when the body receives a high dose of penetrating radiation, but everything outside of the release point had no radiation-induced effects for plants and animals.
I had no idea there was such a big effect on the food chain. Very interesting. Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you.
And now we have Emma Lockhead to talk about populations.
The accident killed 30 operators and firemen within 3 months and several further deaths later. One person was killed immediately and a second died in the hospital soon after as a result of injuries received. Another person was reported to have died at the time from a coronary blockage. Acute radiation syndrome was originally diagnosed in 237 people on site and involved with the cleanup. It was later confirmed in an additional 134 cases. Of these cases, 28 people died as a result of ARS within a few weeks of the accident. 19 more died later between 1987 and 2004, but their deaths cannot necessarily be attributed to radiation exposure. Nobody off-site suffered from acute radiation effects, although a large proportion of childhood thyroid cancers diagnosed since the accident is likely due to the intake of radioactive iodine product.
Pretty serious stuff. Thank you, Emma. Now we have Emily Massarelli to talk about atmospheric changes.
The disaster at Chernobyl resulted in many negative effects on the environment, more specifically on nature. On April 21st through May 6, 1986, there was cesium-137 released and spread into the atmosphere for the first 14 days of the disaster. Winds carried plumes of radioactive particles as far as across the Atlantic Ocean to North America. The amounts of radioactivity affected humans by entering the body through air inhalation and absorption through the skin. Furthermore, radioactivity was absorbed by trees in the surrounding areas. This is a concern because wildfires are common in these areas. If a major fire was to occur, the absorbed cesium would burn and produce radioactive smoke. Also, chemicals from the disaster at Chernobyl became acidic rain. The acid rain traveled as far as to Canada, resulting in 14,000 Canadian lakes becoming acidic. All these effects on the atmosphere contributed to the devastating consequences of Chernobyl, reaching far away from the Ukraine.
Thank you, Emily. You're welcome. And now on to Lauren LaRusso with information on succession. Thank you. After the accident, radioactive iodine contaminated plants, grazing animals, and the milk produced in parts of Belarus, Russia, the Ukraine, and some other parts of Europe. This direct deposition on plants was the most serious during the first 2 months after the accident, since radioactive iodine wears off quickly. Fish took in radioactive iodine very quickly, but the levels decreased rapidly due to radioactive decay. The accumulation of radioactive cesium along the aquatic food chain resulted in high applications of the cesium in fish in some lakes as far away as Scandinavia and Germany. Overall, in plants and animals, when high doses were sustained at relatively close distances from the reactor, there was an increase in mortality and a decrease in reproduction. During the first few years after the accident, plants and animals in the zone showed many genetic effects of radiation. Still today, there are reports of abnormalities in plants and animals, both in the zones and beyond. Over the years, as the radioactivity levels have decreased, the populations have been recovering from the effects. Following the initial decrease in numbers, some of the populations have recovered because individuals have reproduced or because the plants and animals have come in from less affected areas. The fact that human activities such as agriculture or industry have stopped has helped this recovery and restart of biological life.